morning. How are you? I do not speak very good Portuguese, so I will speak Spanish. I hope that you can get that, as my presentation is full of videos and illustrations. If this presentation looks like the one I showed last year, you are pretty right. In addition to illustrate and make some comments about the technology, what have we changed and what has it improved lately? A little bit of our background, and to put that into context, you all have heard about that the number of resources for the internet, we have IPv4, IPv6, and that is spread throughout the world, throughout some registers. We have some regional registers that cover the Latin American validity. We also have the Caribbean region. We have APNIC in the Asia Pacific region and AFRINIC in the African region. The registers, they were not raised with the internet. That is an evolution of different mechanisms that spread and distribute resources and mechanisms that were raised with when DEMI was one of the main characters in the internet world. IANA was the first organization responsible for internet. Right now, they have their own directory, but in the past, IANA was responsible for the beginning of internet. LACNIC is a register from Mexico to the southern region of Latin America. What is the division between LACNIC and ARIN's region? So we take into consideration those islands which are Spanish speakers and those which are English speakers. And with that, we make a division and we decide which regions will be under LACNIC portfolio and which will be under the ARINIC portfolio. Who should have those guidelines? And here we are not talking about owners or proprietaries. Regions, they are things, or he corrects himself, regions are not things, but they are a common good that somehow we give use to those that are in need of that. Those registers, they are spread in this chart. IANA, those 5 registers are below IANA, and our register, LACNIC, has some specificities. For a while, the only register are the national ones. LACNIC has got 2 main registers below LACNIC, which are the Brazilian and the Mexican registers. Both Mexican and Brazilian NIC, they came before LACNIC. The NIRS models, especially for those large communication markets, they are very efficient in my opinion. In the APNIC region, which amounts 60% of the whole internet in the globe, since the beginning of the year, is now implemented. So APNIC is the one which has the highest number of national registers: Japan, China, India, and Vietnam. So directions goes from NIRS to RIS, or in case of LACNIC, we also have those members that can choose their address directly. BGP. You all know what BGP is, otherwise you wouldn't be here. And I remember that last year when I talked about BGP, you found quite funny that I said that BGP is a router based on rumors, routing by rumors. Once someone tells to somebody else something else, and that becomes something different, and that is what I mean by rumor. The basic BGP relationship is the one when two routers they raise a TCP connection with a defined message and they exchange messages. And those messages, they are mainly rumors. Those that get the announcements, they believe what others are saying. So far, the router which gets information has no longer elements to check if those rumors are a fact or not. They just believe in what they hear. And how come that internet is no longer two equipments connected by a telephone line with lots of servers? The topic, though, is that people they are not as malicious as we believe. People they are quite nice. So rumors they are okay, they are fine. And once those messages they are not taken away properly, each one of the routers, once they get messages, they propagate that to their neighbors. And once they are dissipating that messages, they may take that in a wrong directions. And those may be one of the attributes to BGP. Some of them, they go clearly, and some may change on the way. One of those is the one known as ALS path, the one you see in green. This is the list of autonomous systems throughout a announcement has been through. The ALS 1, 2, and 3 routers, in each one of these steps they increase. That is actually a list which adds to the last visited AS. And here is where we see some troubles. What happens when this path no longer reflects the reality? Due to several reasons. For a BGP announcement to become a router, we have to apply some exceptions, which are made of several ifs based on the attributes. Different from what many people believe and say, a BGP announcement is not a router. To become one, you have to go through BGP exception survival algorithms. Once we have in Uruguay, rumors in the neighborhoods they get worse when the third person gets on the way. That's quite common in the villages and in the countryside of Uruguay, like when there are two ladies talking and then a third one gets on the middle in the middle, that becomes even worse. I don't know if that takes place here in Brazil as well, but anytime that there is an announcement or a rumor different than what it should be, it's because we have something wrong going on in the traffic. Something like that would not work fine in the internet, which is just to announce a more specific piece of a prefix. Those more specific routes, they are specific, and that should be part of the announcement that is being hijacked, and any operator should filter that. And there are some histories such as the Palestine YouTube that show how that may take place. What can we do about that? There are several operating practices that we talk about, different infrastructures such as filtering and to use IRRs to generate lists, the same thing as people from Google did. And that has to do with the limit, the possibility that those bad intention rumors, they may be harmful to the industry. We have some other automated possibility to reach decisions about wrong announcements, and that has to do with ROV. And that is adding an element to those participating routers to see if those elements that they see as a rumor, if that has anything to do with our reality. Therefore, additional information to the routers are added so they can compare that to something else, and that will be the RPQI information, and that will represent an additional element to take that prefix into a route. BGP is like a device which introduces an additional step in the validation of the source. Once I get any announcement, I have to consider one of those elements, which is the first ASN, the source, the first AS available in the path, and then compare that to a database which is publicly available at the web. The main difference, though, is that this database, it's not a rumor. The RPKI database is, in fact, information that was uploaded by different sources and then was coded and cryptographic. There is an element to compare a rumor to something that we can verify later on. The whole verification goes through ROASs, Route Origin Authorizations. So those authorizations are responsible to express an intention in which a prefix ROA tells from which autonomous systems you may announce that prefix. ROAA is not generated by your ASP. Carriers, they tend to be very careful and to raise IRR objects to their customers, and those objects, they may turn into trouble later on. LACNIC objects, we get complaints that we have IRR object that was created back in the 80s or in the 90s. How can I delete it? Or someone that is from Brazil writing to LACNIC, that happened a few days ago, asking how they can interrupt a IRR object. The IRR object has some limitations once they allow to convey information. ROAS access comes with a list of prefixes and source, different sources and different texts. We have several prefixes here and autonomous systems that were announced. The exception algorithm is enriched by the fact of having the validity state. That state is assigned to a learned prefix in relation to the KPI information and ROAs. This is an algorithm throughout the validity prefix, which is known and valid. ROI is in coincidence to our RPKI, and invalid because for some reason that does not have any alignment or coincidence. Most announcements, they are in that state of knowledge. RPKI is a certified framework which is shared with the most known KPIs such as LCCA. And here we mix two technologies, which is the KPIs, routings, and cryptography. You carriers, you should know that this is a database which can be checked. You may have an encoded proof, and that's a way to prove that there was no change at all. Certificates, they have several theories behind it, but let's not get into that right now. This is the LACNIC RPKI with all LACNIC certificates. There is also an internet certificate, and then the ISP's certificates, ISP 1 and 2. What's going on in each one of the regions? In Ecuador, we have invalid routes. There is here a link for you for your further assessment. And the most interesting experience last year at Crix and Renata and Pit Chile, they had made a public announcement, and they are also detaching those discarding invalid routers. There are larger carriers in the world that are discarding those additional routers. RPKI then created a key to what can be applied in practical terms. As any new technology, we have to consider some obstacles, and we have to troubleshoot what to be improved. Some statistics. Here we have coverage of ROAIs by IPv4 per country. Here we have some countries with a great coverage, whereas we have some other countries with minor coverage. However, in all countries, we have those who are creating ROAs, and they are protecting their announcements throughout RPKI. I don't know if anyone had the chance to participate at LACNIC conference when we talked about our project Fort. This is a security project where we highlighted several aspects such as RPKI validation tool, and the other one, it works like a repository, a statistics engine to store information and to leverage coverage maps for IPv4 and IPv6 coverage. And you can see the greener we see, the greater the coverage is. We hope and I wish that in few weeks we can see this whole Latin America region fully green. That's it for now. Thank you so much for your attention. I still have a few minutes left. If you have any questions, please just address them. Otherwise, I'll give the floor to our next speaker.